Sarah Martinez thought she was living in a fairy tale. Standing at the altar in her grandmother's vintage lace gown, surrounded by 200 guests, ready to marry the man she'd loved for 3 years. But the text message that buzzed on her maid of honor's phone was about to turn her dream wedding into the most epic takedown in internet history. The morning had started perfectly. Sarah woke up in the bridal suite of the Grandview Manor, sunlight streaming through crystal windows, her bridesmaids bustling around with champagne and excitement. She'd been planning this day since Marcus proposed on the beach in Santorini 18 months ago. Every detail was flawless. What Sarah didn't know was that while she was getting her hair done, Marcus was in the groom's suite making phone calls that would destroy everything she believed about their relationship. But we'll get to that. The ceremony began exactly on schedule. Sarah's father walked her down the rose-petal aisle, tears in his eyes as he prepared to give his daughter to the man he'd grown to love like a son. Marcus stood at the altar looking devastatingly handsome in his custom tuxedo, his best man David beside him, both of them grinning as Sarah approached. The officiant, Reverend Johnson, had known Sarah since she was 12. He'd watched her grow from a shy teenager into a successful marketing executive. This was supposed to be her happily ever after. "Dearly beloved," Reverend Johnson began, "we are gathered here today to witness the union of Sarah Elizabeth Martinez and Marcus James Coleman in holy matrimony." Sarah felt her heart racing with pure joy. After 3 years of dating, countless late-night conversations about their future, and months of wedding planning, this moment felt like destiny. Marcus had been her rock through her mother's cancer scare, her biggest cheerleader when she got promoted, her partner in every dream they'd built together. Or so she thought. As the ceremony progressed through the traditional elements, Sarah noticed her maid of honor, Jessica, checking her phone with a concerned expression. Jessica was Sarah's oldest friend, practically a sister, and she never checked her phone during important moments unless something was seriously wrong. But Sarah was too caught up in the magic of the moment to worry. She was focused on Marcus's eyes, on the promises they were about to make, on the life they were about to begin together. "Marcus," Reverend Johnson said, "do you take Sarah to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, till death do you part?" "I do," Marcus replied, his voice steady and confident, looking directly into Sarah's eyes with what appeared to be complete sincerity. The guests smiled. Sarah's mother dabbed tears from her eyes. Everything was perfect. "Sarah," Reverend Johnson continued, "do you take Marcus to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, till death do you part?" Sarah opened her mouth to say the words she'd been dreaming of saying for months. But before she could speak, Jessica stepped forward and whispered urgently in her ear. "Sarah, don't say anything yet. Look at this. Right now." Sarah turned slightly, confused by the interruption. Jessica held up her phone, showing a series of text messages that made Sarah's blood turn to ice. The messages were from Marcus's phone. To a woman named Amanda. Sent just 2 hours ago while Sarah was getting ready for their wedding. "Can't wait for this circus to be over so I can see you tonight. She has no idea about us or the apartment. After the honeymoon, we'll figure out how to tell her I want a divorce. The prenup will protect my assets." Sarah's world tilted on its axis. The words swam before her eyes as she tried to process what she was reading. Marcus had been cheating on her. Not only cheating, but planning their divorce before they were even married. The prenup she'd signed trustingly was designed to leave her with nothing. The entire wedding party was staring at her, waiting for her response to the minister's question. The guests were getting restless, wondering why the bride was taking so long to say "I do." Marcus was looking at her with growing concern, having no idea that his secret had just been exposed in the most public way possible. Sarah felt a rage building inside her that was unlike anything she'd ever experienced. Not just anger at the betrayal, but fury at the sheer audacity of it all. He was planning to use their wedding day as cover for his affair. He was going to let her say vows he had no intention of keeping, let their families celebrate a union he was already plotting to destroy. But instead of breaking down, instead of running away in tears like Marcus probably expected she would when she eventually discovered his deception, Sarah did something that would be talked about for years to come. She smiled. Reverend Johnson, Sarah said, her voice carrying clearly through the silent chapel, before I answer that question, I'd like to share something with everyone here today. Marcus looked confused but pleased. He probably thought she was about to deliver some romantic impromptu vows that would make their wedding even more memorable. He had no idea how memorable it was about to become. When I was a little girl, Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger with each word, my grandmother told me that your wedding day reveals who people really are. She said that some people rise to the occasion and show you their best self, while others show you exactly who they've been all along. The guests were smiling, thinking this was leading to a sweet story about Marcus. Sarah's father looked proud. Her mother was reaching for tissues, preparing for tears of joy. Marcus was beaming, probably thinking Sarah was about to praise him in front of everyone they knew. Today, Sarah said, I learned something about the man I was about to marry that I think everyone here should know. Now Marcus looked slightly nervous. Sarah could see him trying to catch her eye, probably wondering where this was going. Sarah pulled out her own phone, which Jessica had quietly handed to her along with the screenshots of Marcus's messages. About 2 hours ago, while I was getting ready to pledge my life to him, Marcus was texting his girlfriend Amanda about how he couldn't wait for this circus to be over so he could see her tonight. The chapel erupted in gasps and murmurs. Sarah's father stood up from his seat in the front row. Marcus went pale, his mouth falling open in shock. But Sarah wasn't finished. He was also discussing how, after our honeymoon, he would figure out how to ask me for a divorce, and how the prenup he convinced me to sign would protect his assets when he left me for her. The murmurs turned into outright exclamations of shock and anger. Several of Sarah's relatives were on their feet. Marcus's own family looked mortified. Marcus finally found his voice. Sarah, wait, let me explain. Oh, there's more to explain, Sarah said, her voice now carrying a steel edge that made everyone fall silent. Should I tell everyone about the apartment you've been renting downtown that I just learned about? The one where you've been living your double life for the past 8 months. Jessica, now fully committed to supporting her best friend's public revenge, handed Sarah a folder. Or maybe everyone would be interested in these credit card statements showing expensive dinners and jewelry purchases that I certainly never received, all while you were telling me we needed to be careful with money for the wedding. Sarah held up the papers for everyone to see. The evidence of Marcus's deception laid out in black and white. So to answer your question, Reverend Johnson, Sarah said, turning back to the officiant who was standing frozen in shock, do I take this lying, cheating, manipulative man to be my husband? I absolutely do not. With that, Sarah pulled off her engagement ring and threw it at Marcus's feet. The 2-carat diamond that had once symbolized their love bounced off the altar steps with a satisfying ping. But since everyone is already here, and we have this beautiful venue, and my amazing family and friends got all dressed up, Sarah continued, I'd like to make an announcement. The chapel was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Even the children had stopped fidgeting. Instead of a wedding reception, we're going to have a celebration of self-respect and new beginnings. The bar is still open, the band is still playing, and the food is still amazing. Consider it a party for anyone who's ever had the courage to walk away from someone who didn't deserve them. The crowd was stunned into silence for about 3 seconds. Then Sarah's Aunt Rosa, a feisty woman who'd never liked Marcus anyway, started clapping. Within moments, the entire chapel erupted in applause and cheers. Sarah's father reached the altar first, pulling his daughter into a fierce hug. I'm proud of you, Mija, he whispered in her ear. That took more courage than saying I do ever would have. Marcus was still standing there, apparently unable to process what had just happened. His best man David was trying to pull him toward the exit, but Marcus seemed rooted in place. Sarah, please, Marcus called out as she started to walk back down the aisle. Can we talk about this privately? Sarah turned around one last time. Marcus, the time for private conversations was before you started lying to me. Before you started cheating on me. Before you decided to use our wedding as a stepping stone to your next relationship. We have nothing left to talk about. As Sarah walked out of the chapel, her head held high and her grandmother's dress rustling around her, something unexpected happened. Instead of the devastation she thought she'd feel, she felt lighter than she had in months. The reception that followed became legendary in their social circle. What should have been Sarah and Marcus's wedding celebration became Sarah's liberation party. Her friends and family rallied around her with fierce support. Even some of Marcus's relatives approached her to apologize and express their admiration for her strength. But the story didn't end there. Jessica had been recording Sarah's speech on her phone, originally intending to capture what she thought would be a sweet wedding moment. When she realized what was actually happening, she kept recording. The video of Sarah's wedding day takedown was posted to social media that night with Sarah's permission. Within 24 hours, it had been viewed over 2 million times. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. Women shared their own stories of discovering infidelity. People praised Sarah's composure and strength. The hashtag #WeddingDayTruth started trending. But the viral fame also brought unexpected consequences. Marcus's girlfriend Amanda, who had apparently been unaware that he was getting married, saw the video and realized she'd been lied to as well. She reached out to Sarah through social media, and they discovered that Marcus had been telling each of them that the other didn't exist. Amanda had been led to believe that Sarah was Marcus's ex-girlfriend who wouldn't let go. Sarah had been told that Amanda was just a colleague who had a harmless crush on Marcus. Both women had been completely deceived. The two women met for coffee a week after the wedding that never was. Instead of being enemies, they found themselves bonding over their shared experience of Marcus's manipulation. "He told me you were obsessed with him and trying to break us up," Amanda revealed. "He said the wedding was just something he had to go through to keep his family happy, but that he was planning to leave you right after." Sarah shook her head in amazement. "He told me you were just a friend from work who didn't understand boundaries. He said he felt sorry for you because you had feelings for him but that he'd never encouraged you." They realized that Marcus hadn't just been cheating, he'd been orchestrating an elaborate double life that required constant lies to both of them. The media attention continued to grow. Sarah was invited to appear on talk shows to discuss her experience. She used the platform to talk about recognizing red flags in relationships and the importance of trusting your instincts when something feels wrong. "I realized afterward that there had been signs," she told one interviewer. "Little inconsistencies in his stories. Times when he was unreachable for hours. Credit card charges he couldn't quite explain. But I kept giving him the benefit of the doubt because I wanted to trust him." Sarah's story resonated with millions of people who had experienced similar betrayals. She started receiving messages from women and men who had discovered infidelity in their own relationships, thanking her for showing them that it was possible to respond to betrayal with dignity and strength. The legal aftermath was swift. Sarah's lawyer, armed with evidence of Marcus's deception and intent to defraud her through the prenup, was able to ensure that Sarah kept everything she'd brought into the relationship. Marcus's plan to protect his assets backfired spectacularly when his own text messages were used against him in court. Marcus attempted to control the narrative by giving interviews claiming Sarah had humiliated him publicly and that he'd made a mistake but didn't deserve such treatment. The interviews only made him look worse. Public opinion was firmly on Sarah's side. 6 months later, Sarah had rebuilt her life completely. She'd been promoted at work, partly due to the attention her story brought to her marketing skills. She'd started a blog about relationships and self-respect that had garnered a substantial following. She'd even begun dating again, though she was taking things much more slowly this time. Most importantly, she'd discovered a strength within herself that she'd never known existed. The woman who had been prepared to say "I do" to a man who was planning to betray her had become someone who would never again accept less than she deserved. The wedding dress was donated to a non-profit that provided formal wear to women entering the workforce. Sarah kept only her grandmother's pearl necklace, which had brought her strength during the most difficult moment of her life. "People ask me if I regret not handling it privately," Sarah reflects now. "But Marcus made the choice to deceive me publicly by going through with the wedding while planning his exit strategy. He made the choice to humiliate me by using our special day as cover for his affair. My response was just matching his energy." The most satisfying part of Sarah's revenge wasn't the viral fame or the public support. It was the message she received a year later from a young woman named Katie who had seen the video and recognized similar behavior in her own fiancé. Your story gave me the courage to investigate before my wedding, Katie wrote. I discovered he was cheating too. I called off the wedding quietly, but I wanted you to know that your courage to speak up saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. Sarah realized that her moment of public revenge had become something larger than personal satisfaction. It had become a cautionary tale that was helping other people recognize and escape similar deceptions. Today, Sarah is engaged to a man she met through mutual friends 2 years after her viral wedding day. Their relationship is built on complete transparency and mutual respect. He knows her entire story and loves her not despite her strength, but because of it. The best revenge, Sarah says, wasn't humiliating Marcus. It was becoming someone who could never be deceived like that again. It was learning to value myself enough to walk away from anyone who doesn't value me completely. If this story reminds you that you deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect in your relationships, share it with someone who needs to hear that message. Sometimes the